You may not be aware of the Waltons TV series that ran from 1972 to 1981, a family show as seen from the point of view of the eldest son, John Boy, of whom was a real person. His actual name was Mr. Earl Hamner Jr. It was his voice that narrated the Waltons TV show. First, in this video, I provide some background history of the Hamner Model A replica of the Model A used in the TV series. The license plates did belong to the Hamner family, but not to this Model A. Earl's daughter gave these plates to the Model A owners. Secondly, I will give you a good look into part of the car's restoration process having been done at the Callaway Customs hot rod shop in Paris, Texas, which was mainly focused on getting the car to run and be safe for limited driving. This 1930 Model A has a bit of a history. Let's settle in for some good old-fashioned fun. Welcome to Road Odyssey. I am Bert. I hope you find this video interesting. Please provide good information in the comments down below. Subscribe for future content and hit that like. Really helps keep this car content revved up. Thank you so much for checking out this bit of fun car history. Let's quickly review the Ford Model A. It's a four-cylinder gas-powered combustion engine car built between 1927 and 1931. This car was preceded by the Model T. Millions of Model A's were built with many body styles and conversions, such as to taxis, town cars, delivery trucks, mail trucks, pickup trucks, and on and on and on and on. To begin this portion of the replica 1930 Ford Model A, I want to orient you to the Waltons TV series first. The Waltons were a real family. The last name is fictitious, but the family and stories were based on Earl Hamner Jr.'s life in the Blue Ridge Mountains. He has lots of siblings, exactly like in the show. It's just that their names were either slightly altered or pretty well changed. Depicted in the Waltons TV series, John Boy Walton, the character representing Earl Hamner Jr., buys a Ford Model A. This car can be seen several times throughout the TV series, starting at the very end of season 2 and then all the way on through season 9. This Model A that I will be talking about is partly a symbol of the charm and wholesome family values associated with the Waltons TV series. To me, that's fairly significant. There were maybe 2 TV cars used by John Boy's character. The first was a black 1929 coupe. Then either that car or a replacement was painted tan, including the wheels. I only saw one reference that the TV Model A did run okay. I got this clip from Happy Videos, and the episode is called The System, Season 3, Episode 7. Happy Videos said in their description that you can see oil coming from the engine, leaving puddles and trails on the street and on the running board. And indeed, you can. Some of the Waltons TV cars were difficult to drive precisely enough for many of the shots, being that the cars were in poor driving condition or just too difficult to drive. The set crew many times controlled the cars by ropes and brought the cars to a perfect stop by putting things like sandbags where the wheels would come to a stop. Now, I say this because the Model A I am about to get into was not a running car when the new owners purchased it. This 1930 Model A was a marketing prop, a replica. This poor old car sat outside the Waltons TV home in Schuyler, Virginia for many years. The TV home closed for tours and all that kind of stuff to some degree in November of 2024, and it had been a bed and breakfast as well. The new owners bought the car and delivered it to Paris, Texas. The Ford is a real 1930 Model A rumble seat coupe. It was in decent condition, but it couldn't run or be driven safely at all. Now, speaking of car history, I have a lot of car-related history and fun in my canon of millions of videos. Take a look at my past content. I'm sure you'll find something to enjoy. I have several links down below in the description of some of these older videos that you might like. Also, if you don't mind, please subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Let me show you what the Callaway Customs team has done to make this 1930 Model A operate again. The Model A was dropped off at Callaway Customs late November 2024. The poor old car had several problems, partly from just age and also from sitting outside for too long. When I arrived late in November, the car had just been fully inspected. Most of the replacement parts had already been purchased either by the owners or Callaway Customs. Important note here, the cracked head was the main injury the car had sustained. Callaway's had sourced a second engine from which to get replacement parts. But that replacement parts engine was in bad condition. No good at all. Figures. While the Callaways had also been working on other cars for the last month or so, they had also been investigating and researching how to do really good work on this car. Now, they do have their own Model A that had been in the family ever since it was bought, so they're not strangers to the Model A's. They just want to make sure they're going to do their customers a top-notch job. Before the Callaways could dig down under the hood and pull out that engine, they first had to, well, remove the front bumper, the fascia, the lights, fan, radiator, generator, which would get replaced by an alternator later, distributor, carburetor, then the wiring and engine-related linkages, and the exhaust manifold. A lot of work. Finally, the engine was pulled, separated from the transmission, which remained in place. Many parts looked very good, including the transmission itself, the input shaft, the clutch housing, and all that kind of jazz. Perfect. The Callaways did replace the clutch, timing cam gear, or the timing gear, and these are kind of neat. These gears are fiber timing gears made of laminated phenolic material, which is a combination of fabric layers bonded with resin. The primary reason for using these fibrous gears was their ability to dampen vibrations and produce a quieter engine sound. Also, this type of gear is designed to break down under too much stress, and that in turn protects the engine from being overstressed. Back when the Callaways inspected the engine and took the head off, there was a busted stud in the block. Well, they had to buy a magnetic drill. It's kind of like a drill press. And so they had to drill that stud out and then re-tap or just re-thread that hole. So a little bit of extra work there and money. Come around the end of December, they saw the second engine that had been bought was truly no good. Nothing they could do with it. So the Callaways eventually bought an aftermarket head. It's a Snyder Model A head, happened to be high compression, 6-to-1 ratio. You might hear a little later the difference in the sound of this aftermarket head, being that it's high compression. It should produce well over 50 horsepower and over 135 torque, depending on the carburetor setup, as compared to the original head, which was a 4-to-1 compression ratio, only giving 40 horsepower-ish and 128 torque. So this new head, and with different carburetor setups, are really, really good for these cars. The Callaway team quickly acquired new spark plug wires or spark plug straps, oil pump, pan, all that good stuff. The original engine had already good valves, valve springs, and other internals, so that was good. The carburetor was refreshed. They got the new water pump and fan belt, that kind of jazz. Furthermore, the Callaways had also completely cleaned out the fuel system. They cleaned the tank, made sure the lines were good, the glass fuel bowl that leads down to the carburetor. Come the first week of January of 2025, Scott had completed the engine and primed it, ready for a fresh coat of paint, while Alex and Jason had replaced and cleaned up all the electrical, the linkages, and the other items that I'd mentioned previously, of course. Just a couple of days later, the engine received its beautiful and properly matched original green. The starter was painted black, which is like the original. The exhaust manifold was painted silver. Now up front, well, to hold the engine in, they had to get a new front engine mount, and they cleaned up the original rear engine mounts as well. Many times when these cars get, restored, the engines get converted to 12 volts, and so that's what they did. This car was completely converted to 12 volt negative grounding. The owner had purchased the coil alternator, replacing the generator, and all sorts of other bits and pieces for this 12 volt conversion. The Callaways confirmed the conversion and install of all this good stuff was to perfection. Better than the original factory built Model A for sure. Of course, they followed all directions for good, safe install. For example, they made certain that the distributor setup for the new electrical system was correct, and noting details as to exactly how to set up the timing relative to the higher compression head. Very important, really seriously important. As you might assume, along with the 12 volt conversion, the Callaways ensured that all the wiring had been replaced with good wires and connections, plus the new coil installed correctly as well. As you can imagine, the interior portion of all the wiring was redone as well. Didn't want to leave you dangling on that fact. Within the next week, mid-January, the plug wire straps were installed, distributor was completed, carburetor installed, alternator was bolted in and wired up, all initially set up and completely reviewed for the first run. The fuel system, well, that was also reviewed and guaranteed to have been installed correctly. As part of the need to get the Model A running and on the road, they had to get under the cab's flooring to reach the battery and master cylinder. Under that cab flooring, they placed in temporarily a large car battery. A smaller one will be put in later down the road. They had also completely redid the battery cable. They put a new one in. They wanted to get all this done to make sure that the 12 volt conversion was good. So testing all that wiring, I got a close to a first run just a couple of days afterwards. It sounded really good. It did. It didn't sound so much like a big sewing machine like they can. With that new head, the high compression head, it seemed to have a little bit more of a meatier tone to it.
Yep.
Coming up next for the car, they've got to get the radiator in. Alex was showing me a little bit of some of the plumbing that would be connected to the radiator and what some of their expectations are for that. And it's going to look really, really nice. Well, it's like brand new, so it should look nice. So they'll get that radiator installed and be really ready for a good around the driveway test drive and make sure this thing is, you know, that one giant leap forward to getting out on the road for at least some short drives in the future. Oh, I almost forgot. So the previous owners had new brake lines put in. The brakes on the wheels were good already as well. The Callaways had to install a new master cylinder, and so they were able to test the brakes, and hey, they were good. So all that driving testing, it will be safe, yes. For a very busy hot rod shop like Callaway Customs to completely rework the engine, rebuilt, rewire just virtually everything on this car and bring the car up to, if not beyond, a like new level was wonderful. Plus, getting it all done within 3 months. That is truly fantastic. They have done a great job.
Battery on. Cool. On. Ignition. That was hard.
This was a really fun little project to follow. I figured that since the car had been seen by so many Waltons fans, that they might want to know that this car was getting some well-deserved TLC. And thank you so much for watching this video. Come back for more in the near future, and I have a lot of car content from the past for you to watch as well. Please like and subscribe down below. Bloop, 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 bloop. I appreciate that very much. And with that, please relax, take it easy, and I will see you later. Bye.